I'm Steve Hanson. I'm the president and CEO and founder of Surface Metals.
Steve, good to see you, sir. So I haven't seen you since the middle of the year. At that time, you kind of switched from lithium to gold. And any regrets on that front? Lithium's making a comeback, isn't it?
Good to see you, Matt, and always a pleasure to talk to you. And really, we haven't switched from lithium. That's our roots in why I founded the company. We continue to have great assets on the lithium side and develop those projects. It just happens to be that in April of this year, we acquired a very interesting gold project. So
I stand corrected. So we've got the dual track going on. So let's talk about that kind of move, because obviously I think you've had a nice reaction in the market since you announced that additional string to the bow. Have you been out sort of telling the story? I mean, where have you been? Who have you been talking to?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the downturn in lithium over the last sort of couple of years, although there's been some recent activity and really positive signs coming into the lithium market in recent months, I have been sort of working in the background corporately, and it's now been time to get out there and tell everybody what we've been up to. So actually, I just got back from Wall Street, from New York, and Bay Street in Toronto. I spent last week there and had some interesting observations coming from institutions as well as analysts and bankers on some of the macro themes and interests that they have. So it's been a very interesting past week.
Tell me more. Such as what? What are the observations of Wall Street and Bay Street?
Well, gold obviously has been a major theme for 2025. As we all well know, gold has hit all-time highs. It continues to trade above $4,000. There has been some movement up and down here, but most of the major banks in New York are calling for 5,000 gold in 2026, including JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. And even some of the world banks, whether it be UBS or Deutsche Bank, HSBC, and others, are calling for double-digit growth in the gold price in 2026. And there are some themes that are driving this potential price for gold. Central banks are continuing to accumulate, in some cases at record numbers. Places like Poland and India and France and others are continuing to accumulate gold at record levels. Interest rate potential reductions, low treasury prices, geopolitical issues, all those things are suggesting a return to safety and a return to gold as a hedge. So these are some of the comments that I'm getting out of key decision makers on the investment side in New York.
But how does that help you? I mean, what do you walk away thinking? What do you walk away thinking, saying, how do I take advantage of that? Is that just a kind of broad thematic? But for a company like yourself, what do you do about it?
Well, for us, absolutely, as a junior and in developing our project, which we're very excited about in Nevada, it certainly allows us in this kind of environment to potentially access greater amounts of capital. And there are broadly, with the meetings that I had, they are looking for names to invest in. New names to invest in, not just at the large cap level, but at the mid cap and small cap level as well. So, with this tailwind on the gold price and interest in the commodity, that results in potentially access to more capital. There's more M&A activity happening as well, joint ventures on projects. So, that's a good news and a good sign for our industry as a whole. We also have to remember that there have not been that many gold mines that have gone into production in the last few years. There are very few. Most of the existing mines have high graded the higher grade ore. They're into medium to lower grade ore now, and so we're going to have a supply crunch here, actually, that will potentially drive prices too. So, there's a need for us to find new and make new discoveries for gold. And continue to go through the permitting process and ultimately get into production. So those are all good signs, whether you're a junior or a developer or mid-sized company. And we're really excited about our Cimarron project. We've done a lot of homework over the last 6 months in putting together the data, and excited for what's ahead for us in 2026.
Right. Okay. So what do you do about it? A bit is you've gone obviously picked up this project, Cimarron gold project in Nevada. Or actually, do you want to remind folks what exactly you picked up back in April, May this year?
Yeah, so we started as a board and a management team looking at other projects really in the fall of 2024. And we looked at many. We're a North American metals company. We look at projects solely in North America. I looked at a bunch of different commodities, in fact, and ultimately Cimarron came across my desk. And what attracted me to it was Newmont and Echo Bay, which became Kinross, worked on this project back in the late 80s and early 90s. So there was a drill database, there was some high-grade intercepts, there was mineralization with high grade all the way to surface, relatively shallow mineralization, and it was open in a number of different directions, and there was a small resource. So again, lots of history there dating back to the 20s and 30s. There are still old mine workings, buildings, adits, and shafts. So what we did is we took this historical database and actually investigated and found even more information. We've taken that information, again, digitized it, put it into a database, and have been working on new sections, a 3D model, and all sorts of new information to really get a picture as to what do we have here. And we've had some interesting findings. So we're going to have an update on that here in the next couple of weeks as to all this homework that we've done in getting to this point. We're working on the planning for a phase 1 drill program. We already have drill targets at Cimarron. So I'm working with industry, drilling companies, and our technical team in putting together that phase 1 drill program and budget. And again, so by the end of the year, we're going to have all that data in forms that people can understand. We obviously have some more intelligence on what's going on, and we're going to begin a phase 1 drill program. And there's a number of milestones we want to achieve with that drill program. Number one is let's confirm these high-grade intercepts that were found back in the 80s and 90s. Let's confirm this non-43-101 resource that's there, and potentially there's more ounces there too. And then we want to make additional discoveries. There's mineralization that extends in multiple directions and in depth, and we want to continue to grow this resource over time, and hopefully we can do that in the early stages of 2026.
Okay, so let's kind of break that down, because it's important that you kind of lay this information out for people to understand what the potential is, because you've referred to it in some of your materials, the primary near-term value driver. I know they just understand what the heck that means. So, so historic drilling from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you've digitized that. But the next step is obviously to validate that data as well, as well as kind of moving through to, I think it was a 50,000 ounce 43-101. Can you just explain, when you're going to do this drilling, what type of drilling you're doing, to what end, in terms of that kind of validation component, whether it be twinning, etc., or how you kind of expand or grow that 43-101 should you want to?
Yeah, my team is still working on the exact plan going forward. But in a short answer, absolutely. Confirmation drilling is twinning some of those holes. We actually think that we may be able to adjust where those holes are going to go slightly to hopefully not just drill into the higher grade mineralizations there, but potentially extend it. So angle is important on where you're drilling, although the idea is to confirm those higher grade intercepts. As we do that, again, there's a small resource there that is non-43-101 compliant. We want to make sure that resource is still there. Potentially, there's more ounces there as well. And so we want to put that into a 43-101 report sometime down the road. So this phase 1 drill program is going to give us more intelligence, and then ultimately will lead to a phase 2 program where we'll probably spend more money and ultimately go after that million ounce target that we really would like to get to sometime down the road.
Right. So this isn't a case of, let's just prove up the historic 50,000 ounces. This is, let's get some drilling done and be able to come back with a 43-101 at the appropriate time with an appropriate size project, presumably nearer to 1 million ounces, right? That's how
For
you spend
sure.
your money, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And um, we won't just be twinning holes and doing confirmation drilling. There'll be a blend of those to get to 43101 compliance. But there's going to be some new holes there too, into infill drilling, stepping out as well. We're seeing some potential for ounces in a bunch of different directions, and there are some very, very shallow holes drilled back in the 80s and 90s that ended in gold and ended in mineralization. Well, maybe we can drill a little bit deeper and continue into mineralization. So there's a bunch of strategies we're going to have that hopefully will result in value for our shareholders and investors. And again, the plan is to do that and meet those milestones in 2026.
Right, but right now, as it stands, because I think you mentioned here, and I think you talked about in your material, the mineralization is open in several directions, or a bunch of directions, as you said today. Are your team kind of close to working out where they think the kind of greatest tonnage potential is? Are they kind of honing in on that, or is that still
And
work to
that's
do,
been our
ongoing
work.
work to do?
We have some very good ideas on that, and I expect
Right.
to have a technical press release out in the next couple of weeks that's going to provide that historical overview, some of our new analysis, and again, we've been working in the background here for a number of months, and we hope to have an update out here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so because I think you kind of again you talk about again some of the marketing material about this sort of these 20 to 40 meter kind of strong graded intercepts. So it'd be interesting to see what you do with that one. And in terms of any other work, historic or that you're going to do around the kind of met work, have you kind of completed any kind of preliminary oxide gold met test yet?
We haven't. There was a little bit of work that was done historically, but there's more that we need to do. Um, our plan is to probably do that post phase one drilling. But again, we have not fully put that in place with the use of proceeds, and we're working out that plan. But right now, our intention is to met work once we've completed that phase one drill program.
But we're looking at like a shallow oxide heap leach type operation, are we? Yeah. Okay. And relatively shallow, is it?
Very shallow, yeah, relatively shallow. Mineralization is coming to surface as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And for those that don't know about our project in Cimarron, we're in a very famous trend called the Walker Lane trend. We are in southwest or south central Nevada, about halfway between Reno and Las Vegas. And we're about 25 miles down or 35 kilometers south of Round Mountain. And this is a very famous mine owned by Kinross, and they've poured their 15 millionth ounce of gold. Anglo has the Bullfrog mine that's set to have its final permits here shortly, and they're hoping to produce over 250,000 ounces annually just to the south of us. So, there's lots of activity in the area. We're not going into a new region. There's good infrastructure. We're 45 minutes from the mining town of Tonopah. We're just off the road. So it's a very good area to work. We can work there 12 months of the year. Nevada continues to be one of the top jurisdictions in the world for mining. We're familiar with it, and excited to get started on this work.
Okay, so and that drilling is going to be supported with mapping and sampling and geophysics as well, right?
Again, we're still working on that plan.
Okay.
And we will be hopefully providing more detail on that before the end of the year.
Okay, no, it's just an interesting, again, early stages. I think retail sort of demand drilling because they kind of understand drilling. It's a kind of binary. Whereas I think that additional work is, that's the thing which kind of improves efficiencies, etc. So okay, you'll tell us when you know more. So I've talked about oxides there. In terms of like getting after any kind of sulfide targets as well. Is there any kind of stark data which kind of lends you to sort of understand the potential of sulfides?
Yeah, no. I mean, I not so far to date. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not possible, but we're not necessarily seeing that in the data so far to date.
Okay. And with regards to, you obviously put a little bit of money together to going to shore up the balance sheet, etc. You're going to have to be highly efficient with your work for 2026. And as you said, the street is telling you what they want. You're going to have to demonstrate somehow. You got to go about building that efficiently. So, what's the kind of current capital going to allow you to do in 2026?
Yeah, so the current capital is going to allow us to obviously do this technical work in preparing for this plan. We will have to raise more capital in 2026 to fund this phase one drill program. Again, I'm still working on the budget and use of proceeds on that. And until I have that, we're not going to go out to the street, but I intend on raising more capital in 2026 once I have released all this data and put a plan in place. So excited to do that. And I think there will be appetite from everything I'm hearing out of Toronto and New York and other areas, and certainly from our shareholders, that raising that capital should be straightforward. And then, maybe we can talk a little bit about our lithium side of our business too.
Yeah, happy to jump. But just one last question on Nevada, if you don't mind. With regards to kind of permitting for drilling and other things, I mean, operating on the ground, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been there a long time, and I have a long history in Nevada as well. 90 days, in my experience, we can get a drill permit with a notice of intent. We know most of the drilling contractors down there, and we have access to people and equipment and so forth. So 90 days is typical, maybe 120 days, but it's not, it's a fairly straightforward permitting process, and we don't see any issues. There's drill pads that are already there on site, some that we intend to use, and then we'll be building some new drill pads as well.
Right, and do you think this where it's really getting to? Obviously, with Clayton Valley, you're already operating in state. Are you getting a different kind of reception with a gold project versus the lithium project?
Well, I would have thought, because of the gold price and the interest in gold in 2025, that would be leading the charge. But interesting enough, last week there was a lot of interest in our lithium projects, and so I wouldn't say I was surprised, but it was really good to hear that lithium still continues to be front of mind. We've obviously had a resurgence in interest in the producers and some of the developers, as well as in the commodity over the last few months. We have a resource at Clayton Valley, which is one of the epicenters of lithium production and development in the United States. We have a brine resource there of over 300,000 tons of LCE estimated. We're very proud of that work that we've done. We took that from greenfield to discovery to resource in 2.5 years. We're continuing to work on milestones at that project. So there was quite a bit of interest out in New York as to how we're going to move that project along and develop it. So there are some key milestones that we want to achieve in 2026. I am hoping to get eventually to a PEA. So I'm working on providers that potentially can do that, and what extra work we're going to need to do to get to a PEA. So that's one of our targeted goals, is to get to a PEA. And in addition to that, we're continuing to work with direct lithium extraction providers, DLE providers. This is new technology that allows you to pump brine to surface, put it through a plant, and get lithium out the other side. Traditional lithium has gone to evaporation ponds. It's taken a couple of years to evaporate. This is a much faster process with better recovery. So we continue to work on that side of things in analyzing what we can do with our brine at Clayton Valley. So we're really optimistic, actually, on the lithium side of things and what we can do to develop our lithium project at Clayton Valley.
Okay, so are you suggesting the next steps and beyond the kind of current and inferred resources, potentially a PEA for 2026?
Correct.
Okay. So what are the things that are going to be important for that PEA then? Obviously, some sort of economic scale people are looking for, but what are the brine chemistry? I mean, how's it compared to Albemarle's Silver Peak next door?
So, one of the benefits of us being in Clayton Valley is, lithium has been produced there by Albemarle since 1966. Our brine is very similar to our neighbor. We are contiguous to the northwest of Albemarle. I can throw a baseball or kick a football over the berm into their evaporation ponds. Our targeted area where we drilled was the same producing gravels and sands that they're producing from. SLB, formerly Schlumberger, has a project on the southern part of the basin, and they put a DLE demonstration facility there in 2025, and we're able to produce lithium from brine. Our brine's very similar to that. So we have large players right in our neighborhood that have brine that is conducive to producing lithium. And so we don't see any further challenges on that northwest side of that basin. And we'll continue to look at engineering, continue to look at the DLE process, and all those components will go into the PEA in determining the viability of our project.
How do you time this? Okay, you've been working on the lithium thing for a while, and the market kind of came off really strong, and obviously then it becomes a kind of waiting game potentially. So you talked about a kind of PEA, need to fund that. Potentially, if you're talking to DLE partners, there's got to be some kind of like pilot scale DLE test they're going to have to do, and that may be company specific pilot plant or not. How do you fund this? Or are you leaning towards potentially maybe some kind of third party or JV type structure on lithium?
Yeah, so over the course of my career, I've been in this resource sector in at various levels for the last 30 years. And I don't need to own 100% of every project that I'm involved with. And so if you look at our Manitoba pegmatite project, that's host rock for lithium, we're in the southeastern part of Manitoba. I brought in a company called Snow Lake. They're a NASDAQ listed company. I brought them in as a partner, and they're earning into that project. I don't have to spend a dollar in Manitoba, and yet I'm increasing the value of that project. They're earning into it. I have a carried interest in it once they've earned into it. So there's lots of value that can be created in Manitoba with having a partner, and I don't have to spend the money there. We certainly are open to those possibilities in Clayton Valley and at our other lithium project next door in Fish Lake Valley, which we own 100% of. So, we are open to those possibilities. The good news on these milestones that I hope to achieve at Clayton Valley in 2026 is we're not looking at significant capital to move the needle here. The PEA isn't going to cost millions of dollars. The DLE work, we've already done a lot of it previously, and we don't see us necessarily even needing to necessarily build a demonstration facility on our ground, because there already has been one that's been put there and numbers have been proven to the south of us. We also can do pilot plant testing off-site with some of the DLE providers too. So we may not necessarily need to have a demonstration facility on site to advance the project and get it to even PEA or even a PFS in the short term.
Okay, that's clear on the model and the potential for that model. You mentioned Fish Lake Valley next door, the Claystone project. What's the update on that?
Yeah, so just over the hills next to Clayton Valley is another valley called Fish Lake Valley. In between there, if you go up into the hills, there's a very famous lithium boron project called Rhyolite Ridge. It's owned by an Australian company called Ioneer. They have offtakes with Ford, Toyota, and Panasonic. They are set to go into construction in 2026. They're backed by the U.S. government as well. We are their western neighbor. We're contiguous to their ground, and their resource is just up the road. In fact, their access road goes right through my project area. So we have a lithium sedimentary claystone project. We have high-grade lithium on surface. We've done geophysics there. We have benches of lithium that we believe are highly probable with a drill program. It's never been drilled. So we are actively looking for a joint venture partner right now to spend money on that project. We've been in discussion with a number of players out there. And again, we're hoping to drill that project in 2026, but with a partner.
Okay. So Manitoba got a Snow Lake Energy with the Snow Lake Energy project, looking for a partner at Fish Lake Valley, with Clayton Valley, obviously meaningfully advanced on the DLE path, but your job, I guess, next year's PEA. Understood. When I kind of look at the kind of lithium and the gold, you've like at the moment, and you talk about raising money. I understand that, but you're gonna, like I say, keep using this word efficient. It's so important that a company of your scale at the moment. What are you doing that people should be looking at and say that meaningfully increases the value of this company? What's the focus? What's the sequence? And what's the end result at the end of 2026?
Well, with the lithium commodity, price dropping after spiking in a couple of years ago, and then obviously dropping, although there's been a recent resurgence. We've, with our lithium project, had to be very careful with our capital. We've had to batten down the hatches. We've had to be very efficient in our spending, which we're proud that we've done. We've cut costs, although our burn rate wasn't significantly high, but we've even cut that further over the last year and a half. When I started this company, there was 30 to 40 lithium companies globally. It grew to, I don't know how many, 200, 250. Everybody and their cousin was a lithium company or a battery metals company. We're back down to probably 60 maybe. So, those that didn't have the right management team or access to capital or good projects have gone away and done other things. So we're still here. We still have good projects. I believe in all of them. And we've tried to be very, very efficient with our capital. And that is not going to change. We've done that over the last year. We're going to continue to be efficient. So things like the PEA at our Clayton Valley brine project, working with DLE providers in testing our brine and continuing to see what recoveries are, those are relatively low-cost ways to really move the needle on value, improving out the development of our project. Working this last year on putting all this historical data together at our gold project, it's relatively low cost for us to do that in getting a better understanding of what we have. And then again, we're not spending money at Fish Lake right now. We're looking for a partner, and we're not spending money in Manitoba. We have someone else doing that. So, we've been quite efficient in this market. Things can change, as potentially our market cap increases, as there's more access to capital. We'll continue to stair step our spending as we go. But, we want to be careful. And I don't like sitting on my hands either. I hate companies that just sit there and spend on G&A waiting for things to happen. We have to continue to do things to create value in our company at Surface Metals. And so that's partly why we acquired this gold project. We didn't want to wait for the lithium market to show legs, even though right now it's actually starting to have some good signs. We wanted to continue to move and create value for our shareholders and investors, and we think we've done that.
But just answer that question specifically. What are the components that you think are not being valued, which you will be able to maybe unlock some of the value of in 2026, if you could maybe prioritize those components? I get the patience and the timing is important, the efficiency of capital allocation is important, but you sit on like 4 assets, which is unusual for a junior of your size, right? So I'm just looking to you, and
and I think we've got one of the best portfolios in North America. Frankly, we're not just next to one mine; we're next to 3. If you think about the one going into construction, and we're contiguous. I mean, a lot of the heavy lifting's been done already from a permitting standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint. I mean, in many ways, if we are able to advance our projects, a lot of the things have been de-risked already with mines next door. We're, in my view, again, I'm not an investment advisor. I believe that there is value that can be unlocked in the future for these projects. I announced our resource at our lithium brine project in March of 2024. We're very proud of that work, that 100-plus page report. But we announced it in March of 2024. If it had been March of 2023, it might have been a different story with regard to that milestone. We announced it when lithium prices were faltering. So, timing, I can't control these things, but timing is something that we continue to look at. And my job is just to continue to do what's in my control and advance the company corporately. I'm hoping that we can actively create value in all of our projects. It could be the sale of one of our projects. It could be a joint venture. It could be actually, as we develop our gold project, separating our lithium projects and gold projects down the road, spinning out assets to create value for our shareholders and issuing them a new share in a new company. All these things can be creatively done and actively done, and that I've done over the course of my career in creating value for shareholders. And again, I'm guided by my board, I'm guided by the markets, and we'll continue to look for creative opportunities that will create value.
Steve, appreciate the update. Looking forward to seeing what you do on the drilling with the Cimarron project for sure, as I'm sure a lot of people are, but I also understand the value of the lithium projects that you're sitting on too. So stay in touch and let us know how you get on. Okay.
Great. I really appreciate it, Matt. Nice to talk to you, and we'll talk soon.